the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Freaking wide open receivers. They took one total deep shot in that game, so we didn't really see Nico, and maybe that was just the offensive line stuff. Maybe it was not trusting the receivers. I don't know what it was, but that's another element that we did not see really at all this year that we saw a year ago. I mean, what to you is the biggest worry for his first year as a starter based on what you saw?
Well, I do think the wide receivers they took a step back in 2022, and coming into the year, man, I missed on that. I thought Tennessee's wide receivers were going to be just fine. You lost a Blitnikoff Award winner, you lost another third rounder receiver. Like, I knew all that, but having Brew back, knowing what Squirrel could do, I bought in 110% to Dante Thornton, and I still think there's a lot with Dante Thornton that he just hasn't done yet. I think he was playing out of position. He was starting to come around a little bit there towards the end of the year before his injury. But point being, I mean, you lost those two. You lost Brew after 5 games. Dante Thornton never showed up. That room really disappointed in 2023. That's got to get a whole lot better in 24. And I think Brew is going to be just this nice, calm presence. You know what he can do with the ball in his hands. He knows this offense. He knows the why behind this offense, not just what to do, but why you're doing it. Chris Brazo, and again, we got to be careful because myself included bought into the hype of Dante Thornton last year, but I do think Chris Brazo is kind of the real deal. He's proven he's done a whole lot more than what Dante Thornton did coming into Tennessee. I like his skill set. I like Squirrel. I like the young guys in the room that are being added, and Mike Matthews and Braylon Stayley. So I'm excited to see how that group can respond. So that group has got to get better. I guess my biggest concern would be you got to figure out who's going to play where on the offensive line. With that new ruling that allows transfers to transfer again, we'll see by the end of the week exactly if any other former transfers lead Tennessee's program. That's always a concern. But you are bringing back a veteran group up front. That's good. But those tackles struggled in the Citrus Bowl. Who's going to play guard? Is it going to be Jackson Lampley, who has a whole lot of confidence after playing the last couple of games of the season? Could it be a freshman that come in? Could Tennessee get somebody out of the transfer portal to kind of finalize that offensive line with a lot of veteran tackles, Javonte Spraggins, Cooper Mays, and all that? But Tennessee's got to block better for Nico next year than they did in the Citrus Bowl, and they will. I mean, again, Iowa's a pretty stout front seven, but that would be a concern. Just trying to figure out who is where on the offensive line and protecting him better in the pass sets.
That's fair. To bring it more towards the receivers. So now Brew is officially back. A really horrific injury, and that my dad saw when we were at the South Carolina game. Like, oh no, that's bad. And it was one of those where you're like, oh, this is way worse than it. And then everyone realizing just, that's it. Season's over. Like, I don't know what's happening for Brew. So it was tough, but you look at last year's room, and we talked about it. Like, a lot of us were wrong about like what kind of drop off there would be, if any, because hey, Ramel and Joe, they had a lot of rapport in the second team, and they've thrown together. They shined in the Orange Bowl. That should be fine. Ramel should make the leap. Squirrel with a full slot role, he should make the leap. And Squirrel was good for the most part. Wouldn't say he's elite. I wouldn't say he wasn't like just putting fear in just every defensive coordinator's just feels like Jalen Hyatt was the year prior, but he was solid. He was solid.
Yeah.
And then Brew, solid, great blocker, did a lot of help on the screen game here for Squirrel, especially early in the year, but not really. He's not a Cedric Tillman. Like, Cedric Tillman was someone you could target 25 times against Pitt, and he could go and just make it work. It's crazy to say, but like, Tillman was just really undervalued from what Tennessee was 2 years ago, and I understand he was banged up.
Go. Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.